Hello and welcome to After Hours. We have an interesting guest, or should I say guests today. What happens to animals who have outlived their ability to be the workhorses that they were intended to be? Or perhaps they were deemed as unsuitable for whatever purpose their owners had intended to use them for. Everyone remembers the terrible slaughter of the 2010 Husky sled dogs. Well, here with us today is a wonderful organization called Second Chance Horse Rescue. And that is what they do. They rescue horses and they grant them a second chance at life. These are intelligent, loving creatures, and their bond with mankind goes back as long as time itself, and it rivals that of even dogs. So the organization is headed up by two wonderful ladies, Thalia Ochoa and Liz Smith, and they're here today to basically introduce us to the world of horses and, most importantly, horse rescue. Hi, Thalia. Hi, Liz.
Hi.
So, what is Second Chance Horse Rescue, really? Maybe tell us something about it.
Well, Second Chance Horse Rescue is basically a haven, so to speak, for horses that no longer compete or race, or even for people that can't take care of them anymore, and sometimes in rare occasions where they're in rough shape and they're actually in need of rescuing and TLC. So Second Chance really is a place for horses of all kinds, all ages, all breeds, where they can come and get the care they need and the training and the love, where they can kind of grow and be able to be placed into long-term forever homes.
Right. And who is Thalia and who is Liz? Like, how did you both get interested in horses?
Well, I've been involved in horses since I was probably 7 years old. Like every little girl, is my dream to have a horse and to ride. So my parents put me in a horse camp, and that was it for me. I was like done forever. So it's really been a lifelong thing for me. And I got my first horse when I was 16 years old, and it was a rescue. And I worked with her for a bit and trained her up and was able to place her into an excellent home. And I realized that that was something that made me feel so great to see such an awesome partnership from a horse that came from a terrible background. Mm-hmm. So that was something that gave me also a sense of fulfillment. So I wanted to continue to do that. So I was able to take in one horse at a time for a while.
Right.
And then after that, people started finding out what I was doing, and
Right.
they would hear about how I would take in horses that needed a home and then place them with great people. And so the phone calls started coming in.
Okay.
So I had to find a bigger facility where we could hold more than one horse at a time.
And Liz, how did you get involved with horses?
Well, my aunt and uncle had a ranch up in the interior. So from the time I was a little kid, I was riding and showing and stuff. And
By showing, I'm sorry, what does that mean?
So I was competing in horse shows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I would take my horse and we'd go do little shows and stuff when I could get up there, because that's up in Kamloops and I grew up here.
Right.
So I leased some horses down here in Vancouver, but it was just way too expensive. So I spent a few years horseless, and it was horrible. So last year, one of my close friends told me about Thalia, who is dating her cousin, who's dating my friend's cousin, and then Thalia and I got in touch, and I started volunteering at the horse rescue, and in exchange for rides, I'd go out there on the weekends and muck and feed and do waters and everything. And within a couple of months, Thalia and I had become thick as thieves, and I was out there like 7 days a week with her, and it just kind of developed into a partnership.
Right. And what are the facilities? Like, what is it that you need to keep horses?
We need space for them, obviously, to
Like a barn,
yeah,
obviously.
exactly,
stalls.
where they can be dry and shelter from the elements. And we need a place for them to be able to get turned out and go outside and have their playtime. And obviously, just like I mentioned before, adequate shelter is probably the most important, because obviously being in Vancouver, we get a lot of rain.
Right.
So that's really important. And a bonus, of course, is like pasture area where they can be free to graze. But being in the city, it's kind of hard to find those places sometimes. So
Right. Now, Second Chance is located in Ladner.
That's right.
So you're in Greater Vancouver, which
Yeah.
is you know, you just wouldn't expect a little horse ranch in the
Yeah.
middle of this greater Vancouver. So I thought, I visited, and I was really impressed, and I fell in love with the animals. They are just incredible, and you know,
They're captivating.
they're
Yeah.
captivating. They were friendly. They were loving. And they were so smart, and they seem to understand
Yeah.
human language, like to a certain degree.
They do.
Yeah, and they have good instincts, you know. So
And they're non-judgmental.
no, that's the thing. They're wonderful. And most of these horses, how do you like get them?
So I think of most of the horses that we get typically are owner surrenders, being that, you know, horses are very expensive and sometimes it's too much for people, or their situation in life changes and they're unable to have their horse anymore. So we do get a lot of those. We equally get as many horses from the racetrack when they're retired. Like I mentioned, occasionally we go to auctions and stuff like that when we have the funding available, and we do rescue the horses that would otherwise potentially end up at the slaughterhouse.
Right. What are the different types of horses?
There
I
are.
know
There's only two
to
types.
you,
Yes.
yeah, a boy horse and a girl horse.
Yes.
But I hear these terms thrown around, and I know I'm going to seem incredibly stupid to you because I'm not a real horse person, but
No.
there's like a standard bred,
Yeah, thoroughbred.
thoroughbred.
Those
What's-
are yeah, they're
Predominantly.
definitely predominant in the horse industry, especially in the Lower Mainland where we have the racetracks.
And they can be either male or female.
That's right, yeah. Standard breds are the horses that get, they race with the carts behind them, so it's
okay.
harness racing.
Right.
And then the thoroughbreds are raced with the jockey on their back. So
Okay.
that's the difference between the two of them. So often when we do get the standard breds in from the track, they've never had a rider on them before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they were intended originally to be racehorses, but they couldn't.
They just weren't fast
Sometimes,
enough.
yeah, they're not fast enough and they require a certain gait called pacing, standard
pacing.
breds. And sometimes they just don't like to pace or they're not fast enough and then they end up with us.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what about like your workhorse? What would that be?
So there's draft horses.
Oh, a draft horse,
And there's
okay.
various breeds of draft horses. There's Percherons, Clydesdales,
Clydesdales.
Belgians. Like there's so many.
How much, in terms of resources, does it take to keep these horses? I'm like almost scared to ask. In terms of money, like hay and must be like really expensive.
Yeah, and we also keep up with routine farrier and veterinary care. Farriers, the
Yeah, what
people
is
that
that?
take care of their feet.
Trim their
So they
feet.
trim their feet, put shoes on.
I see.
Yeah, so we keep up with regular care in terms of those, and also factoring hay costs and board, because we have to pay to keep the horses at that facility. It can run upwards of $1,500 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, hay generally costs us about $100 to $150 per week, depending on how many horses we have.
So you need to have constant support.
That's right. Yeah, we survive solely on adoption fees and donations, and with the occasional fundraiser, which obviously takes extensive planning and a lot of work. So.
Right. Before we get to that part, I wanted to ask you, what's the process that you go through when you get a horse? Okay, say you actually acquired this horse now, and the horse trailer is coming into the facility, and what do you do with the horse?
So once the horse steps off the trailer, what we usually do is we let them sort of take a look at the property. They get to, look around, check out their surroundings. And after that, we give them a few days to settle in and get used to the other horses, because we have them all in a group setting. So they get a few days to just settle and get used to everything. And then we'll have our trainer out, and she starts the assessment. So none of our horses are available for adoption for at least 2 weeks before, after they enter our rescue, just because we want to know everything about them. We want to know what their personalities are so we can match them appropriately. So it's a better chance of success long term, rather than having horses returned because we didn't do our job properly.
Right. And what does she do with them exactly?
She-
in assessing them.
Her name's Bobby. She's excellent. She comes a couple times a week, and she'll work with all of the horses that we have at once. And what she'll do is she starts from the ground up, so she really wants to take the time to form a relationship with them so they understand each other. And so she'll start with some groundwork, some lunging, and then after a couple sessions of that, then she'll move to putting tack on them, like saddle and a bridle.
What's the lunging?
So lunging, they have...
I so know nothing about this.
Well, explaining it to people, it sounds sort of silly. It's you have a horse on a very long rope, essentially, and they will go in circles around you. That's kind of how you can describe it the best.
Yeah.
But it's a really good way for them to start to listen to you, and so they can understand what you're asking of them. So it's easier when you do start them under saddle.
Okay.
It simulates what they do in a herd. Yeah, where the dominant mare will push the youngest horses out of the herd until the horse kind of learns to respect her, and then when they come back, it's called
The join up.
join up. Yeah, so then they'll come
Really?
back to the horse. So that's kind of what lunging is supposed to simulate.
Yeah, so it's really about the first bond. And also because horses are, by nature, they're looking for leadership. So it's,
Like dogs.
yeah, exactly. So essentially that's where you form the leadership.
I see. And do they still have these natural instincts even though they've been in a track setting or they've been racing? And
Absolutely.
whatnot?
And especially with the horses that we get from the track, because generally speaking, they're in a stall most of the time, except for when they're working and racing and stuff like that. So when we get them, it's really nice to see them. They're so happy to finally be out of a stall and just to roam free and do what they want. And so, it always takes a few extra days for them to settle, because oftentimes it is very high strung on the track. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I was going to ask you, one of the horses that you've rescued was Lucky. And I noticed on your website that you had it was like it's a drive to get donations.
Yeah.
And it's called the Lucky
Fund.
The Lucky Fund,
Yeah. So actually, we got lucky at the very first auction I attended last year. It was June 7th in Kamloops.
Oh, wait, you folks have only been around really for one full
One
year.
full year. Yeah, our 1 year anniversary was February 11th, so just not too long ago. So I went up to Kamloops because a lot of people were messaging me through our Facebook page and letting me know that there are auctions around the interior where tons of horses go through, and some of them, if not a lot of them, end up being purchased by the meat buyer.
The meat buyer, what does he do?
The meat buyer is sort of interesting because when they purchase horses, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to slaughter for sure. Meat buyers often are also traders and sellers. So if there is a good horse there and they can get it for a cheap price, they'll train it up and sell it for a profit.
Oh, I see.
So just because a horse is purchased by a meat buyer doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% going to slaughter. So if it's worth more than the meat price to them, then they'll train it up and resell it for a
And
profit.
if it goes to slaughter, where does it go from?
They go to a feedlot where they usually sit there for
A year.
6 months to a year, and they get fattened up. Essentially, I guess is what you could say, before they are
They
slaughtered.
get killed.
And then what do they do with the meat? Do you know?
I believe it's shipped to
Other
Europe.
countries?
Yeah,
I don't know
I
what
think
they
it's
do
shipped to
with the meat.
other parts of the
Okay.
world, predominantly Europe, I believe, from what I've
I see.
seen.
I don't know a lot of people here who eat horse.
Yeah.
No, I think it's against the law, but I'm not 100%
And
sure.
I think it's mostly the way that they are slaughtered that is so horrifying.
Inhumane.
Yeah.
How is that done?
Well, it's just, I've never actually been to a slaughterhouse, but just from videos and other articles that I've read, it's
pretty
it's
nasty.
nasty. Yeah, I wouldn't go into details.
Right. Okay. So Lucky, he was up for auction.
Yes.
And the meat man was there.
Yes. So before the auction starts, you can go through the pens. So you can go into the back and you can do a walkthrough, and you can see all the horses that are up for auction. They all have a little card on their pen that says, their name and their age and what they've done, if they've done anything. And so I saw Lucky, and what was interesting to me about him, the first thing I noticed was his leg. It was really crooked, and he had a really bad club foot. And a club foot is when it grows faster than I guess
Oh, okay.
the bone can when they're
Oh,
young.
okay.
So it's deformed. It looks deformed.
And so he was limping.
So he had in his case, often if they're treated on time, it can be
corrected.
corrected. And obviously his was not cared for.
So you managed to get him.
Yes, so I did. And the trailer ride back was obviously difficult for him, being that he's basically three-legged with that club foot. But we had a really good farrier, and I just wanted to see if there was a possibility that we could do something for him if it wasn't too late. And
He really touched your heart.
he did, yeah, because despite the fact that he could barely walk, he actually came and hobbled over to me in the pen and was really searching for the affection, and that like totally tugged on my heartstrings. And I was like, I don't care if you know how much this is gonna cost me. I just have to do something about it. Yeah, I have to try at least. And
he was stunning too.
He was
a gorgeous
beautiful.
horse, like really nice conformation, and you know, nice and big and muscly and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
he was beautiful.
And then, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we had him at our farm for about 2 weeks. We had the vet out, we had the farrier out asking for their advice on what we should do, and it came to the conclusion that the best thing for him would be to let him pass on, just because at this point in his life, he would have to be on medication for the rest of his life, and that would only make it comfortable for him to just do basic things like walk.
And he was wanting to run, you said, and play
he
with the other horses.
And you could tell that he could see the other horses running and playing, and he wanted to be doing it so badly. And for us here at Second Chance, it is about rescuing horses and saving them, but at the same time, it's quality of life is the most important.
Right. And so now you have the Lucky Fund.
Yeah,
and all the money from that you earn with the Lucky Fund goes to auctions?
That's right. So I started the Lucky Fund because I thought it was a great idea to be able to travel around to other auctions like the Kamloops one, and to be able to save horses there as well, just because in the interior the horse rescue presence is little to none.
Right.
So that's where I got the idea of the Lucky Fund, and all the funds raised from that would go directly into an account that would just be used solely for traveling.
Now, you've had other organizations that you've teamed up with, and there have been some businesses, WestJet, Ethical Bean, Green Hawk in Langley, and you're doing this Heritage Classic thing this week, so maybe by the time people see this, that might already have been passed, but you have other organizations, and OWL, that work with you.
That's right, yeah. We've formed a partnership with a few organizations around us, such as OWL. OWL is one of them. They have events at their facility in Ladner, and they invite us to come and set up a booth and spread awareness on our rescue as well.
And you do pub nights as well.
Yeah, that's right. They've come to our pup night before, and they're just really great ladies, and we help them promote their rescue as well and what they do. It's just really important to us to be able to help as many animals as we can.
And then basically, if people want more information on the pub nights and they want to get involved and perhaps donate time or money, they can always, you have a Facebook page.
Yes, we do.
And you've got some other animals as well. I wanted to bring up, because I hear that like you went to a pet show recently.
Yes.
And you had a little friend with you from Second Chance, and his name was Pedro.
That's right.
So you have a donkey?
Yes, we do. It was sort of happened by accident. We were at the Langley auction last June, and he was like one of the last animals to go through. We were there to save a horse if needed, but none ended up needing rescuing. And then the last thing that goes through are two little donkeys. So the female donkey that was with him, somebody picked him up. But then when it came to Pedro, everybody's like, what are we going to do with the donkey? And then Liz and I were like, what are we going to do with the donkey? Well, we put our number up, and the bidding kind of kept going, I guess. And then the auction guy said it was sold, but we didn't know it was us. We didn't know it was us. And then he pointed at us, and we're like, wait, that's us? Oh my God, we were so excited.
So you have a mascot too?
Yes. Everybody is in love with Pedro, who comes
And I
into
also
the rescue.
understand, we don't have a whole lot of time, so we'll try and squeeze in as much as we can here, that you also have had Kevin Bacon involved with you. Who is Kevin Bacon?
So I got a phone call a couple months ago.
This isn't the Kevin Bacon.
No, this is a piglet. I received the strangest phone call I've probably ever received in my rescuing days, and it was a woman asking me if we took pigs, and I said, I've never taken a pig, but I'm open to it. So, I mean,
so he's a Vietnamese potbelly?
He's a potbelly pig, yeah. So he was just 10 weeks old, and the woman just couldn't care for him any longer. So she asked us if we could take him in. So
and you named him Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, we named him Kevin Bacon. And he got adopted like right away. So, and he's doing great. He's in Ladner, and he's like a little dog now.
And he got adopted, but the horses, we didn't really touch on this, and we don't have a lot of time left, but you do fit them with homes.
That's right.
So it's people that have the space and the means to be able to enjoy these beautiful creatures.
That's right.
and you always try to make sure that it's as good a fit as possible.
Yeah, there is an adoption application process. So people, if they're interested in a horse, they can submit an application after they come to view it, and we deem it to be, a good
Right.
fit. So then they'll fill out an application form, and we go from there. We check their references. We get them to send us pictures of the facility where the horse will be staying, if if it's not within a distance that we can go check it out. And then so then if everything looks good, then
Sometimes, usually it works out. Like
Yeah.
99% of the time. 95%
yeah,
of the time?
we've only had 1 or 2 cases where it hasn't worked out for whatever reason, and the horses have to come back to us. So I think the only one that's ever happened is Ghost.
Yeah.
Or there was Rebel or something.
Rebel, yeah.
Rebel, yeah.
She hasn't come back to us yet. She was being fostered by a really wonderful woman, and then she was adopted, and that adopter's horse was beating her up, unfortunately.
So sometimes when they go to a new home, the other animals
It's the other
may
animal.
or may not take to them.
Yeah, I mean it's always 50-50 when you're introducing new animals to each other.
Right.
So it's a gamble, but unfortunately with that one it didn't quite work out. But she is going back to the foster home, which is really great for her, and she'll be happy there until
Right.
we can find her a new home.
So going forward, what's the ultimate goal? The immediate goal, the long-term goal? It's to raise more funds to keep these horses going. Right now you have 3 rescue
We have
horses?
3 for adoption.
Oh, how many have you rescued?
We've adopted out 36 horses
You've
in 1
saved
year.
36 horses.
That's right.
That's amazing in 1 year.
Yeah.
And it's just, people pull together. It's just amazing what people can do.
Yeah. We've met so many incredible people on this journey, and we've helped so many horses that have touched us. So I think that's the long-term goal, is just to be able to keep doing it.
Well, and we'd like to eventually be able to incorporate doing the rescue with therapy riding, working with people with
Oh yes, and
disabilities.
you were saying that you
Yeah.
also do you also have a
Yeah.
program.
Yes, our friend who works for St. Leonard's Society actually coordinated a program for us with federal parolees.
Right.
So they come out every Sunday and work with the horses and learn how to interact with them and be around them. And where I'm also trying to collaborate with the place I work at right now, so that at-risk youth can come out and work with the horses as well.
Right, so it's part of that federal parole. There's a federal
There's
parole
a federal
program.
parolee program, yeah. And then we're going to be doing an at-risk youth program as well.
Right.
The ultimate goal for that is to open a therapy riding facility eventually.
Using rescue horses. So that would be,
Right.
I think that's a really long-term goal for us, as well as having our own facility, just because renting a place is, there's always that uncertainty. So definitely we'd like to be able to have our own property where we could keep the horses with
Right.
us.
I thought that you had lived on that property, but
No.
that's
We
just a
don't.
rental property
Yeah.
where the horse, and it's strictly for the horses.
That's right.
Yeah.
We each live separately from the rescue, so
Right, so then you just go out there and you work with the horses.
every day.
And they're thriving. They're happy. I was out there and they looked, they were performing for the camera. They were, I was taking a look at them and they were coming up to me, and they, a Forrest in particular.
Oh yeah,
She
she's
loves
a
people.
stud.
She was just adorable. I got to give her a big kiss.
And when we first got her, we couldn't even get near her. It took
Yeah.
about 2 weeks for her to
Really?
actually warm up to people.
That's what you were saying. A lot of
Yeah.
them have, especially the racehorse animals, they have only had working relationships with people.
Yeah.
So they need time to unwind when they come in.
Right.
So we usually give them a couple weeks before we really start doing too much with them.
Right.
And that gives us time to, see their personalities
to know
develop and get to know them, for them to assert their place in the herd.
Yeah, and if they're good, I don't know, is it, do they react differently with adults than children sometimes, or?
Oh, most certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen horses that, are not too fond of adults sometimes. Or,
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
You'd think it would be the other way around.
yeah, but with kids, it's just,
The innocence, I think.
Yeah.
They've never been hurt by a kid or damaged by a child. Even
Right.
when we've had people have come out, a lady with cerebral palsy and a young man with Down syndrome, and they're like completely different horses around these people. It's
Wow.
incredible.
they really, they really know that these people need them to
help.
help. Exactly.
And
And
they're just the most compassionate creatures.
really
How
are.
can we not be compassionate towards them, when they do so much
Yeah.
for everyone?
yeah.
And the other thing I noticed when I was out there was one of them had like this huge branding, and it was like right at the top of his neck, underneath or her mane.
That's right.
And
That's
that looked really painful.
That's a tattoo that they get. That's a standard bred tattoo. So thoroughbreds get their tattoo under their lip, and the standard breds get it on their neck, and they get that for identification purposes.
Oh, I see. Does that hurt?
I would assume not. I would hope not.
Yeah, I just did.
Because it looks more, with the standees, it looks more like they're bleached on
Like
the
it's
side.
dyed, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little,
I'm not exactly sure how the tattoos are done for the standard breds, but I know thoroughbreds, it's actually like a tattoo underneath the
I
lip.
see.
So
So, you have a pub night coming up, or you have a craft show, or anything where we can all go and buy something, or T-shirts? I
we've
heard
always
you have
got
T-shirts.
T-shirts.
we always have T-shirts. Yeah, T-shirts are great, and people like them, and we think they're cute.
So you
And
can order them off our website.
Yeah.
Or
And the website, what is the website?
the website, the address.
Yeah, like it's www.
www.secondchancehorserescue.weebly, which is weebly.com.
Oh, okay.
And that enables us to get our website for free rather than paying for
I
it.
see. So instead of it being a .com or something,
Yeah.
how much do the T-shirts go for?
So we have black and white T-shirts that are $20, and then we have royal blue and red, and those are $25.
And what does it say on the T-shirt?
So on the front, there's a horse, and it says "Save a Horse, Ride a Rescue."
Oh,
And then on the back, it's our big logo.
that's nice.
Yeah.
And I think we're almost just about up. Is there anything else that's important that we should know? We'd love to have you back too, by the way. Maybe in the fall after you've done some more rescues, because I think I'm going to do a little rehash of all the people that have been on the show.
Cool.
You know, come on for a few minutes. That'd be great, and let us know,
How it's
it's
going,
going and everything. So, is there anything else that we've missed that's really important for people to know?
I don't think so. I just think it's really important for people to realize that there are horse rescues around.
Yeah,
Because
I
a lot
had
of
no
people don't
idea.
know that.
Yeah.
And there are people like us who are animal advocates, and we're out there trying to do our part. So.
Right. And when you can't, you refer them. You're linked
Yeah.
in with so many other organizations.
Yeah, there's
that
a
you've
few
got it
other
covered.
organizations that will refer people to if we don't have what they're looking for.
Right, such as OWL, I think that was one of them.
Owls, they're a wildlife, so they're mainly birds of
Orphan
prey.
wildlife.
Oh, okay.
But I've referred people to greener pastures.
Greener pastures.
They're specifically a standard bred adoption society, but they're such great horses. So
Well, that's good to know. Well, I'm really glad that you folks came down here. And I just, I want to say to people that have donated time and money to this organization, on behalf of humanity, thank you very much.
yes, thank you.
And, it's said you can judge a society on how it treats its weakest members, and I'd like to say also on how it treats its animals. So, give to Second Chance, because you guys are fabulous.
Thank you.
And everybody, horses as well, deserve a second chance. So thank you for watching, and support Second Chance, and we'll see you again.
Thank you.